Hi folks, have you heard? The Flat Earth Society is having its global convention soon. Apparently they're gathering from all around the world. Let's talk about cameras. One of the most iconic brands in the camera industry, Olympus, has recently gone bust. Their intellectual property has been bought by a hedge fund. So what, you may say? I've no interest in cameras. Well, I do. But you may not have an interest in cameras, but I'm sure you have an interest in morality. Does the name Michael Woodford mean anything to you? Probably not. But Michael Woodford was appointed as the chief executive of Olympus Cameras in 2011. Within a few months of taking up his new post, he uncovered some serious financial and criminal irregularities at the company. The company directors told him not to worry, that if he turned a blind eye, he would be handsomely rewarded. What would you have done? With £1 million salary, a brand new job, the promise of even more success and money in the future? What would you have done? Would you have turned a blind eye to what was going on at Olympus? In 2018, a gentleman called Oscar Groning died at the age of 96 while he was on remand to begin a life sentence in a German prison. You see, Oscar Groning was an accountant, and 70 years earlier the Nazis had put him in charge of selling the personal possessions of the inmates at Auschwitz concentration camp. He wasn't a camp guard. He never killed anyone directly. He never had personal contact with the prisoners. He just sold their stuff and gave the money to the Nazi regime. While at Auschwitz, he made numerous attempts to be reassigned, but his requests were denied. In later life, he met someone who denied that the Holocaust ever happened, and Groning replied to the man by letter, saying, "I saw everything. The gas chambers, the cremations, the selection process. 1.5 million Jews were murdered in Auschwitz. I was there." Groning never tried to hide what he had been a part of, and he lived with the guilt of it his entire life. But yet he was found guilty, and a German court sent him to prison for participating in genocide. But I ask you, what could he have done? What should he have done? What would you have done? Winston Churchill, speaking about Britain's stand against Germany during World War II, quoted philosopher Edmund Burke, and he said, "All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." There is a slight problem with that statement. If you watched my previous videos, you will know that there are no truly good people. All of us are a mixture of both good and evil. Oscar Groning was a mixture of both good and evil. Michael Woodford was a mixture of both good and evil. James chapter 4 puts it better. It says, "Anyone, then, who knows the right thing to do, yet fails to do it, is guilty of sin." Oscar Groning went to prison, convicted by a German court. He had failed to stand up for what was right. He'd failed to blow the whistle on the evil he knew was going on around him. What could he have done? I don't know what I would have done. Afterwards, Groning, for his whole life, was riddled with that sense of guilt. Michael Woodford, however, despite the threats from Japanese criminal gangs against his family, stood out. He blew the whistle on the shady dealings at Olympus Cameras. In the process, he lost his livelihood, his home, his future, and almost his life. But the ensuing court case brought down the Olympus directors. The company profits never properly recovered, and last month, Olympus went bust. Michael Woodford was awarded $10 million by the court, given an MBE here in Britain, and has since given and raised millions for charity across the globe. What would you have done if you'd been Michael Woodford? Do you know the difference between the word morale and moral? Well, morale is merely moral with an E, isn't it? But the relationship between these two words is very close indeed. Morale speaks about our happiness. If our morale is high, we tend to be happy and content with life. If morale is low, we are unhappy, depressed. But what about the word moral? Moral speaks of knowing and doing the right thing. The problem is that if you and I know what is right and moral, but we don't do it, we become unhappy and our morale plummets. Because deep down, we all know what we should be doing. We all know the difference between right and wrong. As the Bible says, anyone who knows the right thing to do yet fails to do it is guilty of sin. I think part of our problem today, the reason why we seem to be so angry at one another, the reason why there's so much protest and angst and division amongst us is because actually we know what's right and what's proper. We know what we should be doing. We're just not doing it. It is always difficult to do the right thing, but evil will always triumph if we don't do the right thing. What would you have done if you'd been in Michael Woodford's position or in the position of Oscar Groning? Would you have blown the whistle on the evil around you? Is there something you need to blow the whistle on now in your own life or in the life of others? The consequences of standing up against evil can be difficult to contemplate, but allowing others to suffer, allowing evil to triumph, and then having to live with the shame and the guilt is not the alternative. Is there something you need to call out in your life? Are you compromising for the sake of comfort? Do you know the good you ought to do, but you're not doing it? Doing the right thing will always be difficult, but there really is no alternative. God bless. Ta-ta for now.